Headphones out, world in. Today's episode is about one of the simplest and most underrated ways to feel more present, more grounded, and more connected to your life. It's a practice backed by positive psychology. It costs nothing, and you can do it anywhere. Enjoy. Welcome back to another episode of Midlife Unfiltered. I'm Margit.
And I'm Clarky.
And today we're going to be talking about awe, as in A-W-E, not as in O-R-O-A-R. A-W-O-R-E or
There's lots of ores.
It's awesome.
Exactly.
No,
So ore in what way?
or as in those things that we look at and we have this sense of something inside, like a sense of magic, a sense of connection, a sense of there's something bigger than us as human beings.
Really?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
I walk around, I don't think I do that.
No. And do you know what? I think a lot of us, we don't normally do this. And often when I go for my morning walk with the dog, I'll pop my headphones in, I'll listen to a podcast, I will, or perhaps some music. And today I went, no, this is a deliberate practice of going for an awe walk. It's actually a positive psychology, what they call an intervention, but it's a practice. It's a positive psychology practice. And going for an awe walk without headphones, what I noticed is that I was far more present to everything. So I noticed the way the sunlight hit the trees. I was smelling different things that I normally would. There's this beautiful, like a lemon-scented eucalyptus or lemon-scented tree just up the road from us that you don't notice if you walk around with your headphones on. But when you take them off and you get present to it, like I noticed that. I definitely noticed people cooking toast for their morning, for their breakfast. And then, just the sights, there was one tree in particular that I was really taken with, and I just sort of stopped and had a look at it, and it was so incredibly beautiful.
It's interesting because I'm just thinking, when you say an all walk, do you have to set yourself to do an all walk? Do you have to go out when you leave your home? Do you actually have to go, okay, I'm going to do an all walk. I'm going to look to embrace everything in the environment or...
Yeah, I think that's a really interesting question. No, you don't have to. However, whenever we are intentional about something, we generally have a better outcome. Like we feel more connected to what it is that we're doing and a better experience of it. So today I was very deliberate. I think, no, leaving my headphones at home. I am going to practice an all walk rather than just walk along and think about everything else. And I'll tell you honestly why I decided that was important this morning.
Mm-hmm.
And that's because I had a pretty tough weekend mentally. And I know I've been in my head way more than I want to be. I know for myself, I'm pretty hard on myself generally. And so I just thought, okay, I don't want to take this into my week. I want to set up my week and start my week a bit differently. Because when I'm hard on myself, I'm not particularly enjoying life. Yeah, I just get stuck in my head a bit sometimes. And I think a lot of people I know do that. I think probably I'm a little bit harder than a lot of people on myself. So I thought, what can I do differently? And so for me, it was very much, okay, let's set myself up for a good day. Let's be intentional about the way I approach my morning. And so for me, that meant I read a bit of a book before I did anything else, a really, a positive book, sort of a personal development type book. And then when I went for a walk, I was just really deliberate about, instead of listening to a podcast, and there is this thing about listening to other people. I just think there's so much great information out there, and sometimes we just need to be present to what's happening in the world and just remember this sense of connection that we have and this sense of beauty. Like, we're really, really lucky where we live. We live opposite a golf course. So often, in fact, most mornings, I can walk across the road and I can see kangaroos jumping, which is kind of that quintessential Australianism, isn't it?
Right.
Yeah, we see kangaroos every day. Well, actually, my life kind of is like that. But we do live in a beautiful place and we don't take much notice of it.
It's interesting you say that, because if I go for a walk, it tends to be based around entertainment. So I'm being entertained by something I'm listening to, or mainly that, really, either music or, as you say, a podcast or the like. So I've never really thought about just going for a walk and embracing the environment that I'm walking in. Maybe if I've gone into the bush, if
Yes.
I've gone like hiking or something like that, I do that. But just in the general walk, I probably don't, and probably never have.
No, and it's one of those things until you sort of, I guess, it was really interesting when I first heard that that this practice was called an awe walk. It kind of named it and labeled it, and I thought, oh, that's really interesting. And I remember years ago, I was running a 1-day course for teenagers, and we were getting them back in touch with themselves. And it was called Being Me, and what that meant as a teenager. And one of the things we did, sort of towards the late in the day, is that we went out for a little all walk where we were, and it was just amazing. These young people who just became really present, and it was something they'd never done. For me, I know when I found that label, oh, it's an all walk. This is a practice. And when you start to understand the psychological benefits of it, it actually makes you want to do it.
Yeah.
But
Well, I've never heard of it. Never
yeah,
heard of that.
well, I think most people probably haven't heard of it. And unless you've sort of been in that coaching world or that positive psych world, you wouldn't have heard of it, or you wouldn't have labeled it as that. But I think there's something really powerful that you said before. Yeah, I do that perhaps when I go in on a bushwalk or on a hike,
Yeah.
but we can actually do an all walk anywhere. So I particularly love looking at nature and finding sort of my connection through nature. But even if you live in a big city, just to walk around through the city and notice the architecture that you're walking through, or notice the smells that you're smelling, you're still becoming really present to your surroundings and where you are. And it gives you this sense of place and a sense of belonging in some way.
There's some other benefits as well.
Hmm.
You can hear the e-bikes coming, the e-scooters, and you won't get hit by a car crossing the road.
Well, that's actually true where we live as well. Yes, but it gives you this centering and grounded feeling of, I guess, bringing you more back into your body, and more, for me, definitely more at peace with where I am, my place in the world, but also just this incredible connection. Of course, when you're looking at trees and you're listening to birds, and it's really easy to sort of sense that something bigness around us, rather than just, you what's going on in my head, or going on in my mind.
It's interesting. The thing that comes to my mind about awe and the awesomeness of this earth
Mm,
is when you stand at the top of a massive waterfall,
mm.
when there's power and beauty all in one, and you go, wow, that's awesome. And yet there's little awe-inspiring things that you're talking about that you can actually embrace as you walk
Yeah.
just in your local neighborhood.
Oh, it was just incredible. And when you start to sort of get in touch with all these different things, you start to notice textures of leaves, the way the light hits on trees. It was funny. I was walking there was 2 galahs sitting up on the power poles, and one just suddenly takes a poop. No, but
As long as it missed, it's
it
okay.
did, it missed me, but it was really, I'm just kind of watching and going, "Oh, of course." But it was really sweet as well. They're just doing their thing.
Yeah.
But you suddenly, like, I had a bit of a chuckle. And I also found that when I was more present walking, when I'd pass other people, I would acknowledge them differently. I, I generally try and say good morning, but if you've got your headphones on, there's a sense of disconnection. Like, I'm keeping to myself. And even if you say good morning, but there was something different about the way that I approach people, or the way that I just sort of passed by people.
It's interesting that I've done a little bit of photography. And when
Mm.
you walk around the streets, I've just taken a camera and gone for a walk around the streets. All of a sudden, you're looking for those reflection of light off leaves, and the positioning of birds pooping, and all sorts of
Yeah,
things.
yeah.
But you look at it totally different when you're looking to capture it. So maybe it's something where you walk along trying to capture these moments in your own mind.
Yeah, and it is. That's a really good way of putting it, because you are sort of capturing it as well as being present to it. And yeah, and you're right. Like, it's really. I mean, I didn't expect we were going to talk about birds pooping, but what I noticed is just there was this slight fluffing up of the feathers. Right now, I've never noticed that before.
Yeah.
But there it was, and it's just nature doing its thing, and so it's something for me. I feel like, wow, my day has been set up better, particularly psychologically, for me to move forward through my day after knowing that, yeah, I kind of had that weekend where I was a bit too hard and really got caught in my head a bit.
Yeah, that's interesting. I'm going to try it this afternoon. I'm going to go for a wander
Hmm.
and just capture the awe of our environment, because as you said before, it's a beautiful environment we live in. So,
It
and I
is,
might even go down to the beach and go for a walk. And again, that awe of power and movement and water
yeah.
is like, it's awesome.
It is. Awesome.
So
I love
that's
the word awesome. And absolutely, and I would say to anyone listening that you don't have to go anywhere special in order to have an all walk. You can do it. I mean, you can do it in your mind, but to get out and do it in your own neighborhood, there's something really special about doing that. Just the way that you notice what's in your neighborhood in a way that you haven't before. It's it's really such a beautiful, beautiful practice. There it is. Today's hack is to go and try an all walk. It's one of those beautiful practices that really makes you feel more grounded, more centered, and really, for me, helps set up a day or finish off a day.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Let's become awesome.
Thanks for tuning in to Midlife Unfiltered. I hope today sparked something meaningful and reminded you of what's possible in this season of life. If this episode lifted you up, share it with someone who could use the reminder. Subscribing will make sure that you're notified when a new episode is released, and leaving a review on Apple Podcasts or Spotify also helps more people discover our little corner of midlife truth-telling. You can always reach out through Facebook, Instagram, or LinkedIn. I love hearing from women who are walking this path with me. Interested in working with me? You'll find everything you need at margitcruise.com. And remember, midlife isn't an ending. It's your invitation to feel more alive than ever. See you next week. And now the legal stuff. The content in this podcast is provided for general information and inspiration only. It does not constitute medical, legal, or psychological advice, nor is it a substitute for independent professional care. Margit Cruise is not a registered health professional. You are responsible for your own choices and outcomes, and should always seek advice from an appropriately qualified professional.